Welcome to Primetime Analysis. I am your host, Victor Onyango. Now, yesterday, the 5th of July, remains a very memorable day for Kenyans, and especially for those who have been in the trenches fighting for social justice. 5th of July, 1969, is remarkable in our history because it is a day when Thomas Joseph Mboya was gunned down at 1 p.m. when he came from Chini Pharmacy. As we know, Thomas Joseph Mboya was a vibrant politician, a young politician who had an ambition of building Kenya to greater heights. On this day, I want us to look at Thomas Joseph Mboya and understand the current political happenings and how it is being shaped by leaders that we have today.
He wants
a voice from Africa. Thomas Mboya of Kenya.
A human struggle. The struggle in Africa is one for nothing less and nothing more than the eradication of poverty, disease, and ignorance. And in this context, you and ourselves are all engaged in the same struggle that can aptly be summarized in terms of a struggle for political freedom, for economic opportunity, and for human dignity. This is my message to you. And I and millions of other people join you today in solidarity for the success of the struggle in which we are all involved. Thank you.
A voice from America. Martin Luther King.
As I stand here and look out upon the thousands of Negro faces and the thousands of white faces intermingle like the waters of a river, I see only one face. That is the face of the future.
The other day, you remember, leaders from Nyanza province, 7 or 8 of them went to State House. And they went in the guise that they were looking for development. I want to tell you a story of Thomas Joseph Mboya. He was a charismatic leader, and he was known to be an advocate of social justice, and he wanted to promote education and better economic planning within Kenya and Africa at large. Some of his notable friends are Martin Luther King Jr., J.F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, among others. And he did not only have international friends, but also regional friends. In Kenya, he worked closely with the first president, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. But one thing that has baffled many is how Thomas Joseph Mboya, a high and a senior ranking member of the first government of this country, could easily be gunned down on a broad daylight without any recourse from the government. As it is stated, there are still discussions or disagreements on exactly who pulled the trigger against Thomas Joseph Mboya. But the history books record that Nashon Kamau was the one who shot him. And Nashon was a KANU youth winger who understood the operations of the deep state by then. When he was arrested, police boss Ben Gedhi, who is also accused of having killed J.M. Kariuki, he asked the police that, why come for me? What about the big man? It is presumed that Thomas Joseph Mboya's death was planned almost 3 years before the day he was killed. And at the time when he died, he as a person was aware of the coming death and the threats that he had towards his life. It is recorded that before his death, few months, few days, he had sought to talk to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And as you know, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Thomas Joseph Mboya were not publicly thought to be close friends. But Jaramogi Oginga Odinga had a soft spot for Thomas Joseph Mboya. And in our dialect, Jaramogi called Thomas Joseph Mboya with the name Guo Suao. And in many instances, he always said that he did not have any difference with Tom Mboya, and that Tom Mboya was very instrumental to his political career and his growth. And at the time of his death, one aide of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who is also his cousin, said that Thomas Joseph Mboya sought to join KADU. He wanted to leave KANU because he had seen that he was frustrated. But at the end of the day, that is how he met his death. Before that, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga told him that please do not leave KANU right now. It will bring serious problems to you. Just look at the kind of things I have gone through. But I do not want to talk about Thomas Joseph Mboya without talking about the current MPs rebelling in Nyanza region. If you look at the kind of members of parliament we have, there are around 8 of them. And they have sworn to support President William Ruto without blinking even once. And it seems history is repeating itself, because on Wednesday, December 10th, 1969, there were 15 members of parliament from Nyanza region who held a meeting in Kisumu, and they said and talked about their loyalty to support Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. This is a time after Luos had been massacred, and they came and said they were supporting President Jomo Kenyatta. You remember that at that time, Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was under house arrest. This came after the massacre in Luo Nyanza that happened when Mzee Jomo Kenyatta came to Kisumu to open the new Nyanza hospital that was also called the Russia Hospital. This happened on 25th October 1969. Luos were massacred after calling out the president and opposing him and demanding answers on the death of Thomas Joseph Mboya. Later in time, 3 days after that event, Mzee Jaramogi was put under house arrest. And many people in Luo Nyanza thought that Mzee was over and nothing more could come from him. That is what led to the meeting by 15 members of parliament in Nyanza who held a meeting in Kisumu. And on December 9th, Tuesday, 1969, they proclaimed that they have full support for Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Our rebel MPs also are doing the same. There are those who have thought that Raila Odinga is complete and done, and they may not need him again because he is gone and his time is up. There are those who have said that Raila Odinga has been the source of underdevelopment in Luo Nyanza. But I want to put it to you that many of you have historical selective amnesia, where you do not know how Luo Nyanza had been marginalized and policies to marginalize it were created. This was not only created by people locally, but also international nations. Luos have all this time been painted as people who are violent because of their urge to fight for what is right. Our great sons and our great brothers and sisters have seen death just because of the brilliance that they had. I remember Agwenge Kodhek, one of the first African lawyers in this country, was assassinated through a road accident that is suspect to date. We remember Robert Odhiambo Mbai for his support for devolution and Majimbo, the young, vibrant Luo man saw death with his eyes. We remember Robert Ouko, a great champion and a believer in Kenya, saw death because of his brilliance. We remember lately our son, Chris Chege Msando. He died because of what he stood for and because he believed he wanted to bring sanity and integrity in Kenyan elections. For those who have been shouting and claiming that Raila Odinga has never won any election, can you ask yourself and can you interrogate why Chris Msando was killed? Why was he not left to prove to Kenyans that elections in Kenya are always free and fair? For this I tell you, to those our Luo Nyanza leaders who think that Raila Odinga is done, who think that Raila Odinga will not have any say in the happenings of this country and the larger Luo community, I must say that you are dreaming. Yesterday I saw a heading claiming that the election of Odungaranda as the care of Luo has been nullified by the courts. I asked myself one question: how can the courts get involved in cultural activities? And if I looked at the responses that Kenyans gave, someone made a joke and said that in this country, the courts can even nullify that your mother is not your mother. I want to call on the Luo nation and the larger Kenyan community who aspire for social justice and inclusion in every aspect of our development agenda, to come together and join hands in supporting the Sabasaba that will happen on Friday. Thank you, and may God bless Kenya.
Osiepe duto ne gigono riti ginda koda bala, jomoko wacho nahero kiola pim lich nono. Pim lich kodwa, pim lich kodwa wacho. Yawa koro kawuono kayokola manade, wangine kayago motamo wang'ama litosiko. Yawa koro kawuono kayokola manade, wangine kayago motamo wang'ama litosiko. Tisa Jumamosi tarehe 5, nduru ya depo walisasu Chelombo ya Jarusinga. Julai 69 Jumamosi tarehe 5, nduru ya depo walisasu Chelombo ya Jarusinga. Atengo pode mbale Jarusinga, kata gimo wacho to bende onge adira uru. Atengo aloka kokelo waki, yao majukoro to kalorite gibiro nege. Pero kataka ne ungeyo, dakuwa wawinje weche Mboya mo Addis Ababa. Yawa pino kuyo kowinjo wachini Jarusinga, walimwengu duto noywaka diera na huzuni mingi. Yawa pino kuyo kowinjo wachini Jarusinga, walimwengu duto noywaka diera na huzuni mingi. Iparo ndalo